a deeper dive into the issues that affect you, the residents of the Ohio Valley. Sponsored by Trinity Health System.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rich Pierce. Thank you for joining me for this edition of One on One. Today, we're talking Decision 2020, specifically the race for Ohio's 96th district. A seat long held by Jack Serra will go to someone else. Two Democrats are vying for the opportunity to run in the fall, and I'm joined first by Richard Olivito. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate it.
Nice being here, Rich.
Well, first, something we have to address. You had a recent incident. In full disclosure, this is being recorded right now on February 19th, and on February 14th, there was an incident in court in Harrison County. You ended up having to pay a bond, so we want to address that here. What's going on with that, and what can you tell us at the moment?
Well, Rich, as you know, it's still ongoing, so I have to be very careful and limited. I wouldn't want the judge to interpret anything I say to be negative. But, yeah, it was an incident. I didn't break any laws. It was a judge was giving me an admonition. I was there for a friend of mine, and a long-term friend. And she was having a distress, and she was, at the time, at the very moment, there seemed to be, she was struggling, and I was trying to help her. And the judge felt I was misspeaking by encouraging her to finish her testimony from the witness stand. And then he's got the right in his court to set the rules. We may have a difference of opinion on that, of what I did to end up for him to put me in contempt, but it'll be resolved, and I think it was resolved okay. We talked a little bit afterwards, and then it is I've been an experienced attorney, and I know the rules of the court. And, perhaps at that time I was a little bit involved with my friend who has been in the court for 3 years, and that case particularly was very difficult. I was the fact witness. I was the only fact witness in that case. I was present that generated the case. I'm actually the one that called the officers to the scene and for her, on her behalf. So it was a critical case. But I can't really go beyond that too much because
just to clear something, were you handcuffed in that incident?
I was. It was funny. I didn't even hear the court say that. The officer just came over and began, and of course I wasn't going to resist that. I was handcuffed, but a contempt action can be civil or criminal, and it's up to the court to determine that. It's not like a probable cause arrest. And I know the prosecutor says I was arrested, but every lawyer knows, and it's a legal matter. Witnesses can be put in contempt. I was a witness. Lawyers can be put in contempt. Anybody in the audience could be put in contempt. But it's not technically, I didn't break laws, state laws or local laws, and I didn't yell at the judge or the prosecutor. It was something I did as compassionate. I guess I'm a little bit too involved with the witness, with the defendant as a witness. And I just was trying to encourage her to finish her testimony.
Well, this is obviously unresolved at the moment. Viewers, of course, we will keep you updated on whatever happens in the coming days or weeks. Let's get to the issues now, because we do have a limited amount of time. We'll have more coming up on our website, WTOP9.com. So you can go there for anything we don't get to right now. But let's talk about the cracker plant, the potential cracker plant coming to Dilly's Bottom. It's something that we are told and have been told that the announcement's coming for years now, expecting it in the first half of 2020. It used to be the first quarter of 2020. So are you in favor of that coming? What are your thoughts initially on the potential big change for the Ohio Valley?
I'm for it. I definitely favor it. I think the Ohio Valley, let me preface that by saying I've been strongly an environmentalist. I worked with Lonzo Spencer and Terry Swerdgen 20 years ago up in East Liverpool to oppose the WTI incinerator, and I actually represented Martin Sheen for a night when he came and jumped over the fence to protest the WTI incinerator. But and I'm very concerned about some of the other environmental issues in our area. But when it comes to that facility, we need jobs. We need to develop that industry. We have the natural gas. Personally, I think that particular plant is going to provide plastics industry a tremendous boost. And I recently, Rich, have been endorsed by the building trades, Upper Ohio Valley Building Trades, this past week. And they're directly involved in the construction project. We want to see that come. I know the governor has been involved. It's a bipartisan issue. I am very concerned at the same time with it. I want to be listening. I want to be sensitive to the environmental groups and the concerns of the people down there about, how is this going to affect the water? How is it going to affect the air? And potential cancer causing substances being released into the public. We got to be I'm not one that's against regulations for the EPA. In other words, I don't want to tear down the EPA. They should be in place. They have a role to play. But I think we can do both. We can build a facility, and we can also monitor it and keep it within the environmental regulations that the law sets.
Well, there are many in the Belmont County area, and especially everywhere else in the Ohio Valley. We were just doing a series on the Beaver County cracker plant, and there are still folks up there who oppose it. And I know that the Belmont County leadership has been involved with the folks in Beaver County to try to figure out what this is all going to look like. Many still have concerns about the environment. So what do you say to the folks who don't want that, and they don't want that industry buildup, especially plastics, in the year 2020, when many are starting to phase them out?
Yes, I totally understand that concern, and I know my friends in the environmental movement who I have a lot of respect for, and I'm glad that they have the perspective they do, and they bring it. That's any type you have an industry like this, you have to monitor it, you have to have it regulated. It is dangerous to bring substances like that into an area. However, I think we had a steel industry in this area for 100 years. We've had coal industries. We've had power plants. And if you take Sammons plant, for instance, it was polluting more than just acid rain or sulfur acid. There was chromium, mercury, and other things. But they put $1 billion or more worth of scrubbers on the Sammons plant. And I know Jack Serra, when it was announced that they might phase that plant out, he became one of the leading voices to try to not have the Sammons plant shut down. And I'm on that also. I'm trying to follow his lead. But
we've got to hit our first break. I don't mean to cut you off. We're going to hit our first break. We'll be back more with Richard Olivito after this.
Hello, Doug from Number One Snyder. We are excited to announce this special sale. Buy any 4 premium Michelin tires, any 4 BF Goodrich tires, including the KO2 All-Terrain, and any 4 Uniroyal tires, including their all-new 75,000-mile premium. And not only you get special prices from Number One Snyder, but you get a free 4-wheel wheel align. Hurry in today.
Inside Your World investigates Canadian socialized healthcare.
We are supposed to be, with our system, all equal, but it's not.
Is it a realistic motto for the U.S.? Inside Your World investigates, Tuesday at 5 on News 9. News 9 is everywhere. 42 hours of news every week. The largest local news team, 4 meteorologists. The most anchors and reporters in the morning. 11 tower cameras. Mobile Track 9 for live road conditions. The Skyview 9 drone. Newsrooms in Steubenville, Wheeling, and Belmont County. On the air, online, and on your phone. Turn to the number 1 station in the Ohio Valley for local news, weather, and sports. News 9 is everywhere.
25 words or less.
This is a show where every word counts.
Place bets.
I could do it at 19. 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Give clues.
Lunar pancake flip.
Run.
Older woman love.
Guess words.
Tattoo.
Alarm. Vest.
Win money.
I'm going home with $10,000.
25 words or less.
Weekdays at 12:30 p.m. on WTOV. Canada provides cradle-to-grave health care, but
when you're on a 9-month waiting list, that's not health care anymore.
Inside Your World investigates the risks of government-funded health care.
People die on waiting lists.
Thursday at 5 on News 9. This is One-on-One with Rich Pierce, a deeper dive into the issues that affect you. Sponsored by Trinity Health System.
Welcome back, joined by Richard Olivito, and we were talking about the cracker plant, and I'm going to let you finish your thought. We had to go to a break, so go ahead.
Well, the thought is I want to be open to the environmental groups and their concerns. I definitely want to be a listening ear to all interested parties, and they're definitely a stakeholder in this, and they have a point to make. I saw in the overall, if I may say, Rich, in the last 8 years, from 2011, I worked with contracts on the oil and gas industry in the last 7 or 8 years, and I saw great improvements in the language and the environmental controls put into just the average ordinary lease contracts for many of our landholders. So, and I saw a great deal of improvements in in the contractual languages. So I think we can get there, and we can do both. We have to grow this area in the union jobs, so we have to be a positive force, and I think it's going to be a great benefit to Belmont County.
Let's stick with the EPA. Let's stick with the environmental protection here of the area, the Cross Ridge landfill. That's something that has been really the #1 topic over the last few months in our area. What are your thoughts on that, the potential to reopen that landfill?
It shouldn't be reopened, and I've joined all the voices that are against it. The out-of-state garbage issue has been something that's been in this community for years. We know about Apex. I know you've been doing reports on this. Years ago, I talked with the folks out in Amsterdam about the problems. That's never been in compliance from what I can understand, from what I know. And I just have joined my voice with all the others, from the city councils to the agencies to even our local college, opposing that. It's just too much of a risk that we don't need that in our backyard. I will say, I'm glad that many groups are coming aware, and we're forming that kind of a strong environmental. It might seem a little bit, people might say, well, what about Belmont County versus our county? The out-of-state toxic waste and the garbage being brought into an area like that is so unnecessary for Jefferson County. And I think one of our problems as a state legislature, hopefully I can address this, and I think the advocates understand this. There's a tipping fee with these kinds of landfills, and a lot of that money goes to the EPA, and that needs to end in some fashion. In other words, the watchdogs are getting paid by those that are bringing in the out-of-state trash, and I think we have to look at that as legislatures and see, why does the EPA take tipping fees, and sometimes even local agencies? So that seems to weaken the enforcement. That's just one issue that I'd like to address statewide with those issues, but I oppose the Cross Ridge.
We have about 1 minute here, so I'm going to give you one more question, and then again, the rest will be on our website, WTOV9.com. When it comes to dealing with the state, when dealing with Columbus, a lot of times there are folks here that feel disenfranchised. They feel like oil and gas money isn't coming here that should be coming here. They feel like, well, they don't really care about environmental issues over here because it's not happening in their backyard. So how would you work more closely with Columbus and with those state organizations to figure this all out?
It's a very good question, and it's something that is definitely on the front burner of my campaign. I feel it's an advocacy issue, and it's one who has experience in that position, and I have experience in that position. I've worked in Columbus for 3.5 years in the state labor department as an in-house counsel. And when you're working that department, you have to make coalitions happen. And in those coalitions, you have to work with Cincinnati, Cleveland. Sometimes you're finding with small cities, small towns.
We have just about 10 seconds. Just want to let you know.
And I feel that our area has been balkanized, and I want to be the voice that would break through that balkanization and that wall.
All right, we'll have more with Richard Olivito on our website, WTOV9.com, and on air in the coming days. When we return, Olivito's opponent, Charlie DiPalma, joins us, so stick around.
It's the WMC Sports Friday. Catch all the action, all the highlights, all the sports that matter to you. We bring all the highlights right to you with the most comprehensive coverage in the Valley. From the team that brings you the best local sports coverage, you don't want to miss all the action. The WMC Tri-State Medical Network Sports Friday, every Friday on WTOV.
Everything comes down to this moment. Now starting to pull away.
There she goes. Nobody does it like Simone.
Dressel gets it done. The dream has come true.
Turn on, tune in, and watch Jeopardy for a groovy category.
Retro phrases.
Meaning I'll see you later. I'll catch you on the This was a hit in record stores.
Can you dig it? Plus, how about a little rock and romance?
You met your wife at a heavy metal music festival?
Well, this was in the back of a dark dive bar. I feel like the fact that she couldn't hear a word I said or even get a good look at me really worked to my advantage.
Okay.
Weeknights at 7 on WTOV9. Inside Your World investigates Canadian socialized healthcare.
We are supposed to be, with our system, all equal, but it's not.
Is it a realistic motto for the U.S.? Inside Your World investigates Tuesday at 5 on News 9. News happens everywhere you go. If you see news happening, send it to us with Chime In. Download the News 9 app, hit Explore, then Chime In. Upload your video or picture, and you might see it on News 9. Chime in with News 9 everywhere you go. This is One-on-One with Rich Pierce, a deeper dive into the issues that affect you. Sponsored by Trinity Health System.
Welcome back to One-on-One. I'm joined now by Charlie DiPalma, candidate for the 96th District in Ohio. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, let's talk first. Let's go cracker plant here. The potential PTTGC cracker plant that could be coming to Dilly's Bottom obviously would have a huge effect on the area's economy. What are your thoughts on that cracker plant coming, and how, if it's not announced by the time you were to take office, would you help expedite that process, or are you not for this?
I would work for that. I believe that we need to create jobs in this district, and that right there is a main focus of mine, to create jobs. So I think that's something we definitely need to look to, and I will work to see that that happens.
How would you work to see that something like that happens or expands? Because when we're talking about the cracker plant, we're also talking about the downriver businesses. It's just kind of one part of that industry. What would you do then in the State House to kind of get that industry built up here in the Ohio Valley?
I really don't know the answer to that. I mean, until you're in the State House and you know what's actually going on, I don't know what you could do there. Being in the State House, I will work to do that, and you know, see what can be done to expedite that.
We're talking about an industry that the end goal here, the end goal for a cracker plant would be to produce plastics. And in 2020, we're looking at plastics being scaled back in many places. Single-use plastics, specifically, which this would be exported to different places to make single-use plastics. Is this a business or a type of industry that the Ohio Valley should be investing in here in this year? Many say no, that it's not the right direction to go in. What's your response?
Sure, I mean, I understand that, but again, we need jobs. So we need to do what we can right now to create jobs, and that right there is going to create a good amount of jobs. So we have to focus on that right now, because we are, you know, we're in an area where things are, you know, they're tough. People aren't working. There's no health insurance for a lot of these people. There's low wages, and they're depressed, and you know, that's leading to a lot of this opioid epidemic and things like that. So if we can create some jobs, we'll be able to fight that. You know, give something to people to fight for. You know, something that they're proud of. And, you know, keeps them off the street. You know, when my dad was growing up, he could walk right downtown, get a job. You know, as soon as he graduated from high school, and he didn't have time to get mixed up in these things. You know, he went down there, got a job, started his family, and he was proud and he was happy, and we didn't have these issues. So we need to do what we can to create jobs in this area, and I'm sure that there'll be some negative to it, but you know, we'll deal with that as it comes.
One of those being negative impacts being the environmental impact potentially, and the potential negative health impacts. We've heard the different issues that this can cause. We're recently talking to folks in Beaver County where they have a cracker plant that's just about ready to go operational, and that's kind of what the folks who are against it have been highlighting. What do you say to those who are concerned about the environmental and health impacts that this type of industry may bring?
I say we make sure that we regulate it, keep an eye on it, test things, make sure that the water and things of that nature are under control. And if something's to happen, you hold them accountable and you make them fix it.
Now, one of those aspects, obviously, you'd be talking to the Ohio EPA a lot, and another environmental issue that folks are dealing with right here in this area right now is the potential reopening of that Cross Ridge landfill. We've seen entity after entity, citizen after citizen come out against the potential reopening of that landfill. And where do you stand? Right now, there's been no permit request with the Ohio EPA for that to reopen, but folks are kind of trying to get ahead of the game here.
Sure.
What's your response to that? Are you for or against that landfill reopening?
I'm against the landfill, and I think that the citizens are doing exactly what they need to do. You know, they're keeping their voice out there, they're keeping it heard, and they're showing these folks from Cross Ridge that, you know, we don't want this. And I think that's the biggest thing you could do right now.
And what are some ways that you in the State House would then facilitate that and be that moderator between the people and Columbus? And we've heard many times that folks around here do feel left out by the lawmakers in the state capitol.
So I'm not sure what you're...
How would you facilitate that relationship, kind of be that bridge between the EPA and then folks here in the Ohio Valley?
Well, first of all, I'll be in Columbus, so I'll be able to speak with them, and they're my constituents if I'm lucky enough to be elected, and they don't want it, and I'll make sure that the EPA sees that.
All right, we're going to take our first commercial break. We're going to come back here in just a minute. First commercial break with our candidate, Charlie DiPalma, I should say. We'll be back with One-on-One in just a minute.
News 9 Sunrise has something new for you. The only local station giving you more information thanks to the J-Bar.
Giving you more news and information during your busy mornings. We keep you updated on local news, national news, sports news, finances, entertainment news, and more.
For weather, you can see we provide you with current conditions and temperatures, so you are informed everywhere you go from 15 locations.
News 9 Sunrise every weekday morning. This week on Wheel, one of these players makes a bonus round solve.
Looks tough to me.
That will have you saying,
"Whoa, I'm impressed."
You just never know.
Plus, a special tribute to the man behind the wheel.
I'm grateful to join Pat, Vanna, and Alex on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I'll tell you, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I could stare at that all day.
Pat, that's your star?
Oh!
Weeknights at 7:30 on WTOV9.
Here's your news from WTOV News 9.
News 9 on Alexa, providing you news and weather updates.
Keep up on all the news that's important to you. Just install the Alexa app on your smartphone and search WTOV News 9.
Helping you stay connected.
Helping you stay informed.
Whether starting your day or ending it.
News 9 on Alexa, just another way News 9 is everywhere.
This room is always so full of positivity and love. Turn on Ellen, you will feel better.
I'm just loving this interview.
Funny, right? There's a blood type for happiness, and that is B positive.
Being on one of your games is like my dream.
As long as you continue to have fun and play, it gets better and better. Amazing.
Weekdays at 4 on WTOV9. This is One-on-One with Rich Pierce, a deeper dive into the issues that affect you. Sponsored by Trinity Health System.
Welcome back to One-on-One. We were talking about the Ohio EPA relationships with folks here, so I want to ask you, Charlie DiPalma, candidate for the 96th District, if you're just joining us, what would your relationship with Columbus be? Do you have any kind of mechanisms in place now, or is this something that would be new to you?
Something that I would need to build upon? Sure. I am lucky enough to have a brother who has worked in the state legislature for about 4 decades. So, you know, speaking with him over the years gives me, you know, a little bit of knowledge of what goes on up there. But I'll be starting pretty much from scratch. But I am, like I said, lucky enough to have him there to kind of tutor me in a sense.
If you win the primary, you go on, win the general election, what is your #1 priority when you get to Columbus?
Job creation. That's my #1 priority. Doing what I can to facilitate jobs around here. And I'll be out there in Columbus seeing if there's any opportunities, if there's anyone looking to create any sort of business or looking for an area where they can work. And I would like to speak with them and, you know, sell our district. I mean, we have a lot of things going for us. So there's like I said, get there and show them that this is a good district with our, we have access to major highways, rail, river. I mean, it's a great place to build a business as long as we can get some financing back from Columbus and into the local officials' hands so that they can build their infrastructures and be ready for something like that and make it, make it look, make it appealing to a business so that they come here and they start to build our economy.
You mentioned their distribution of money from Columbus to the Ohio Valley. That's something we hear all the time from folks saying that we're not getting our fair shake here of oil and gas revenue, seeing that money come into the area where that oil and gas is actually being taken from. Where the roads are being damaged and whatnot. So people don't believe around here that they are getting their fair shake. What would you do and how would you work to make sure that people here were not forgotten by Columbus and in fact were getting the money that was due them?
Again, that's something where you got to get into Columbus and you got to start to sit down with people and understand actually firsthand what's going on. But sure, it's our money. I mean, it's coming from our district. We need to, or I'd be in Columbus trying to get that money back here to build our infrastructure so that we can maintain this industry. Not even that, maybe even build some sort of a rainy days fund for ourselves in this district where, if something happens, it's there for us to utilize. I know that a lot of that comes from our income tax or our sales tax into like a local fund for the state, and then it trickles down to the counties. So we need to increase that. I think that it's, I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are, but I know over the years they've kind of taken from that, and it would be nice to have them give back to that, return that percentage to the local governments like they're supposed to.
You mentioned infrastructure being an issue. You mentioned jobs being an issue. What is the #1 issue that's plaguing this area right now that you would look to help by being in Columbus?
Again, it's jobs. I think jobs is the answer. I mean, opioid epidemic is a close second, but with jobs, I think you can combat the opioid epidemic. So,
is the state legislature doing enough to fight the opioid epidemic? Do you believe?
I think they are. I mean, I think they're doing what they can. I think there's more that can be done, but I think they need someone from an area like this to come up there and say, hey, look what's going on down here. And I know firsthand, I've lost family members to opioid epidemic. I've lost friends from the opioid epidemic. So I know what it is and what it does to families. And I've also, on the other side, I've seen people come and pull out of that. I've seen friends who have gotten deep into it, and then they, like I said, they pull out of it, and they're doing great. And you need someone up there who can explain that firsthand. And if they're not doing enough by my standards, I'm going to fight to make sure that they do more.
We have about 10 seconds here, so real quickly, Republican governor, you're a Democrat, so you'd be a Democrat. Can you reach across party lines to solve things? Just very quickly, you have 10 seconds.
Yes, sir, that's for sure. I'm going to make sure I do what I can to make things work, and if that means I have to reach across the aisle, that's what I'll do.
All right, Charlie DiPalma, thanks so much for being here. That does it for this edition of One-on-One with Rich Pierce. A big thank you to both Charlie DiPalma and Richard Olivito. For all of our political coverage, check out WTOV9.com and join us on air on News 9. Have a great day.
Inside Your World investigates Canadian socialized healthcare.
We are supposed to be, with our system, all equal, but it's not.
Is it a realistic motto for the U.S.? Inside Your World investigates, Tuesday at 5 on News 9.
April Ross, and she hammers it home.